Man, you need to buy yourself a gun.
What?
Gun?
What?
Like a handgun. For personal protection. If somebody tries to mug you.
What?
What if your government tries to throw you in a can?
What?
You're gonna want a shotgun.
What?
An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo.
Gun?
Yeah, gun.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like in Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Jackbooty cops in riot gear, gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave no money to the banksters. They stole your pension fund. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta drag them through the streets.
Riot in the streets, riot in the restaurant parking lot. It is Tuesday. It's primer time. My name is Michael.
I'm Nick, and oh my goodness, isn't it time to put yourself a Hefeweizen in hand and watch out for the biker gangs?
Well, look out and look out for overpriced chicken and beer at these. They're referred to as restaurants. We are, of course, referring to something that's in the news and kind of a concern to the gun-owning public. The recent shooting at a Twin Peaks restaurant in Waco, Texas.
Let me go ahead and interject something for folks who don't know. Waco has been the scene of many an incident involving firearms and involving law enforcement over time, going back as far as Branch Davidians outside of Waco.
George Chenard at the Lubies.
Exactly, but that was in Killeen. So Killeen is
right.
about 30 miles southwest of Waco, and that is in the Fort Hood area. It's still close by. But you know, Waco's one of those towns that's too tough to die. If I can steal from Tombstone there for a second.
It is a interesting town, and there's a reason why I don't live in Waco. And well, it looks like there was a Confederation of Clubs meeting for the bikers, and it looks like five different biker groups showed up, and there was a scuffle in the men's room, according to the news, that moved out to the parking lot, and it quickly turned violent, and now we're faced in the aftermath. The aftermath with changing numbers, I might add, but we're looking at 9 dead, 18 seriously wounded and hospitalized, and the changing numbers I'm referring to is originally it was 192 arrested, and now we currently sit at 170 arrested. So
that's some fuzzy math. So
well, you know, just like with every story, you know, there's always some fuzzy, and this is no exception to the fuzzy story situation. There seems to be a lot of blame on the restaurant owner, Mr. Jay Patel.
Yeah,
and
which is racist, by the way.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned his name. Turns out that he's a franchisee, which means he pays a significant fee every year to the Twin Peaks corporation to use their name.
And remember, the Supreme Court said that's not a fee; that's a penalty.
that would be true, and that would be a completely different topic that we're all getting screwed on. So,
Yep.
one thing that screws us over at a time.
So
So, he was recently stripped of his license, which I'm sure is a face-saving move by the corporation. He's just a franchisee. Well, the police said that the franchisee should have made it unavailable for the gangs to use it. Well, let me ask, in light of the fact that they said that they had something like 23 cops or something in place for this move, and the cops, of course, in the aftermath, they all appeared to be fairly well armed. If it took, 23 well armed police, and then, well, seriously, probably the whole county in the aftermath of this, why do they think Mr. J. Patel would be able to kick these guys out by himself?
Well, never mind the fact that Mr. Patel had told law enforcement that he had held these Thursday night biker evenings in the past with absolutely no incident. So there was no precedent for him to cite and would give a reason as to say why he should or shouldn't allow people to peaceably assemble, which it seemed that they did until there was
there hadn't been any kind of incident in the past prior to this, had there?
Exactly. And from initial reports that I've seen on the news, which have only been since yesterday, because if it comes out on the news, I don't watch it. So I kind of rely on things that I read outside.
How do you get your commercials? How do you know what to buy?
I just keep going over the stuff in my head from the 80s.
You cannot have a PXL 2000 camera.
Hey,
those are out of date.
I'm still trying to get my ColecoVision, okay? So yeah, it's really interesting because you'll have the I don't know if it was the chief of police in Waco or the county sheriff who was very upfront in placing blame prior to there being any kind of completed investigation, any kind of forensic examination, anything that had to do with the actual event taking place. Was very quick to place the blame on the proprietor. So you get that out of the way, and what does the franchise do? The franchise says, "Hey, we're going to go ahead and revoke their license because they didn't comply with police directives." And it's the information, it's the smear campaign, it's the disinformation, and the character assassination. So,
well, I believe this moves more towards the disinformation portion,
right?
Because,
And
as we see, let's look at another little changing portion of this, where they say there was 192 arrested. And now we're down to 170 arrested.
Maybe Jay-Z posted bail for them rioters too.
Possibly, or maybe they, hit like a time-space continuum pocket that exists in the Waco detention center, and they teleported, or they were informants, undercovers.
So that would mean that the good old Reverend Al Sharpton should be released, right?
I didn't say
FBI informants.
I didn't say tax dodgers. I just said that they were informants.
There you go.
Okay, so if there's 20 informants in this, and the county and state and city law enforcement feels the need that they have to have 20 informants there and then 23 armed officers in the crowd, if it was that kind of a threat to society, why did they let people eat there, like regular customers eat there?
Well, it's kind of one of those things. At this point, Michael, what does it really matter?
What does it really matter?
Yeah.
Well, I guess Well, let me ask. Let's just stay on this for just a second, or a few minutes more. Let's say you were in the restaurant and totally not served to the amount of safety that your public officials have. Well, they should have been giving you, but. Let's say you're a concealed weapon carrier and you are in that restaurant when, well, all hell breaks loose. What would you do?
I would be finding myself the largest large-breasted American. Since it's a restaurant, there's probably going to be a couple of those there, and since it is Texas, more often than not, I'd be pretty safe. And I would use said individual as a berm.
Yeah. I think choosing to engage what appears to be well over 200 bikers with your sidearm, even if you have an extra magazine, is not probably a good choice in this situation. So I would have said take cover or GTFO.
Right. So, well, what are you going to do?
I don't know. It's this is well, this plays into our show a little bit more than the usual news event that we could cover, or something to do with firearms. Uh, just because, well, like the whole instance of the shooting thing. The police were very, very quick to say that there was 100 weapons recovered. Now, we use that term in our show. We say 100 weapons or whatever, and we're referring to firearms. Well, that's not necessarily what the police are referring to. They're referring to like clubs and
Yeah,
car
batons.
antennas,
Yeah,
well, and car antennas and bicycle chains and stuff like that. That's what they're referring to as weapons. I'd like to know the number of firearms recovered in this melee. And
you may
to
get
be
to the
quite
bottom of Hillary Clinton's emails before you find that number.
I think that's going to be about right
Yeah,
because let's take a look at it. This is Twin Peaks. It's a nationwide chain. It's not out in the middle of the sticks. Actually, it's in the middle of a shopping plaza. Nick, it's straight up on 35. I mean,
right.
I'm sure you know exactly where that place is
I
at.
certainly do.
You've driven by it several times, as have I.
Yep.
It's in the heart of the Texas corridor, right there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right on the highway. Uh, those kind of places usually have security cameras covering the entire parking lot.
And not only that, you'll have the Texas DPS with its cameras
On
on the highway. So,
right.
you know, it, yeah. At this point, the way I look at it is, okay, for the three main biker groups that were involved, you had the Banditos, you had the Scimitars, and you had the Cossacks, and then there was two other
Yeah, and that
groups.
it looked like it was the Vaqueros and I believe it was Pistoleros or Vagueleros or something like that. But the other one was the Vaqueros.
Yeah. So
And it looks like the Banditos are the, I guess, top rated group.
yeah, I don't pretend to understand anything about biker culture, so I wouldn't surmise anything there.
I've never even watched Sons of Anarchy.
Neither have I. So what I'm going to say is this: is that if you have a legacy organization that's probably on every law enforcement agency's radar for being involved in illicit drug trade, prostitution, human trafficking, those kinds of things, I'm going to say that your organization has probably been infiltrated by an unknown number of agents of said law enforcement. You're going to have all kinds of informants. So the way that I saw it was that when Waco's police came out and said we were aware of the meeting in advance and we had officers staged on the premises. Well, yeah, it kind of does give some credence to the idea that maybe quite possibly, and it's not like we haven't seen any examples of this, that the shooting portion of this could have been instigated by a policeman. So,
I would almost wager, I don't know, a month's salary that all the victims will have police issued ammunition in them.
yeah. So,
And I'll tell you, if that's what ends up happening, I could almost say that that's the kickoff of a gang war. And maybe police brutality will be dealt with in a different fashion this time.
yeah. Well, and not only that, what was it last summer that there was the scare against police officers, worried about rogue individuals coming back, folks getting released out of prison and going back after the officers who, prosecuted against them and had them, locked away. And there was the one individual in
For those
Colorado that was
three-
the judge and his wife that were killed.
Yeah, and there was something about a county prosecutor in Texas that was killed. I believe it was Bell County or something like that.
No, it
So,
wasn't Bell County. That was out closer towards Dallas. So it would have
was
been
it?
Tarrant County or yeah.
Yeah, it was Tarrant County. That's exactly what it was. It was Fort Worth. And, it turned out in both of those cases, it was law enforcement that killed those people.
So there you go. So we know that we have law enforcement that's not exactly capable of putting bullets into the right people, and more often than not put bullets into the wrong people.
Well, that's another thing. Okay, so this is in a fairly populated area. I mean, it's extremely populous. I mean, that's a pretty busy place on a Sunday afternoon in Texas. I mean, not to be mean or anything, but I did see a couple of interviews, and they kept going back to an interview of a girl who was quite well fed. She was healthy, and she's average for that area. So there's people out and about doing things with their family. Now, why you take your family to, titties and beer, I have no idea. But
Because you want them to be exposed to Texas culture, Michael. That's why.
that's not even a Texas company.
No, I can tell you, I've actually eaten at a Twin Peaks, and it happened to be in San Antonio. A heads up to my boy Chris and Feedy for taking me out there after the successful deer hunt we had last summer. But I'll tell you, it's probably Hooters, what Hooters was 30 years ago.
Something with a little bit more energy than Hooters.
Quite a bit more energy, and the waitresses look probably about 1,000 times better.
Well, Hooters has been sued for discrimination.
Yeah,
times,
because
their standards are fairly low now.
Yeah, sometimes guys just want to serve food. You know what I mean, Michael?
I just want to dance.
I just want to dance.
I just want to dance.
Yes, go sand crabs.
Shut up, man! You're gonna get me beat.
All right. Well, Michael, I gotta switch gears for you.
All right.
Got a range report.
Let's hear the story of the 300.
Breaking news range report. So this weekend, I was actually able to clear about 5 hours and made the drive out to an area nearby that I have a friend who lives out in the county. He's got some land, and we're able to go ahead and put some rounds downrange. I have completed the 300 blackout build.
Now, I did see a video of this, Nick, so I can confirm that you're just not lying to everybody about the mythical 300. You did put it looked to be about 7 rounds or 5 rounds in the video downrange. How did it feel to you?
I tell you what, not knowing what it would feel like to shoot a 308 caliber bullet out of a 5.56 case, I was kind of a little apprehensive. Knowing what the reload recipes call for, I wasn't expecting a huge punch, but I'll tell you what, it doesn't feel anything bigger than a 5.56 to me, at least because I've been shooting them for over 20 years. It's awesome, and adding to the fact that the build actually consists of Palmetto State upper and lower. The barrel comes from Tactical Ambush out of Florida, and the rail system that I chose comes from Midwest Industries, and it's a 15-inch Generation 1 quad rail. So it's a monolithic quad rail. That rail makes all the difference in the world, because basically the only thing that I have exiting the end of the rail system is the flash hider and just the end of the barrel. So the barrel rise when I'm actually shooting is minimal. Bullets go exactly where I want them to. I couldn't be happier. The fact that this system takes all existing parts from 5.56 AR series rifles, uses the magazines, you don't lose anything in capacity, and you can even recover brass from 5.56 outings and turn that into 300 blackout. I am totally satisfied.
Well, my initial fear with this was the availability of the ammunition. Once I became more familiar with it, and your serious conscience about and your desire and drive to actually reload for this, now I see it as a very good choice. Now let me ask you, how close are you getting to completing the other 5.56 upper that's going to be there in in case?
Just in case. Actually, I had some concerns about the other upper receiver. Had my buddy take a look at it. He's pretty familiar, and it looks like it's got some type of epoxy paint coating, and that's what was throwing me off. I was really concerned that somehow they had tried to sneak in a synthetic or a polymer type upper. And, aside from just the fact that I would have paid for something that wasn't the case, this is actually going to be something that I'm going to take a little bit more time on. the 300 Blackout actually has a pistol length gas tube system, whereas this 223 Wild Barrel has a carbine length gas system. So the tubes are actually offset. The pistol length is like a 7-inch tube, and like the carbine length is like a 10-inch tube. Um, it's just different lengths, so that way as the gases are leaving, it goes and throws the bolt carrier back to cycle another round. With this 223 Wild, I'm going to take my time on it. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that as I'm buying parts, I think I may decide to go ahead and bring in the old A2 style front sight post and see how that works. It's just a matter of checking on it. In order to go ahead and switch the lower from the 300 Blackout upper, all I have to do is push out the takedown pin. So there's a front and rear takedown pin. Remove that upper, which includes the barrel. Take the next upper with the 5.56 barrel. Go ahead and replace those front and rear takedown pins, and you've got another 5.56 rifle. All that's required is the barrel and upper receiver to change out.
Yeah, see, that was my main concern, because my serious concern is the availability of ammunition, and you've got potentially a firing rifle if you had the appropriate upper. And now that it's a simple swap, it's just the 2 pins and then boom.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah, I would definitely say. Now, what do you think that it's going to cost you to complete that upper in its entirety, from where you're at and maybe from where you started? Because you look online and you can find an upper right now minus the bolt carrier group and charging handle for about $170.
Right. So when you take a look at online and seeing what's available, you can realistically put these together much less expensively than what it takes to buy them whole. The only problem is that there is a little bit of knowledge that's requisite to building one of these, and there are a couple tools that are going to make life a heck of a lot easier. First thing that I recommend you get a hold of is a decent AR-15 armorer's wrench. One, because you're going to need to have it to set the barrel nut, the castle nut. You're also going to want to be able to set the flash hider. In addition to that, you're definitely going to want to use a vise, preferably with something that's called soft jaws, or actually just some leather strips or rawhide or something that you can go ahead and place around the part, so that way there's you don't rough up the finish any more than you have to. Secondly, aside from that, I would really recommend using a torque wrench, so that way you can make sure that instead of just giving it the 2 grunt push, you can go ahead and make sure that you've got the actual foot-pounds of torque applied as per the specs that come out of the U.S. Army manual for the M4 rifle. That's just the best way I see it.
In Soviet Union, foot-pounds apply torque to you.
That's right. So
yeah, I'm still not a fan of them damn things.
Yeah, well, I don't like them, but you know what? I like it when it actually does, as I showed you in the video, and that is you pull the trigger, it goes boom, it feeds itself, and says, "Thank you, may I have another?"
Yeah, that was really nice. And have you seen a piston-operated version of the 300 Blackout yet?
That I have not. Haven't really been scouring the interwebs for that. It's just a matter of checking to see if Adams Arms is going to come out with the bolt carrier. And like I said, there's no real difference to doing it on a 5.56 upper or a 300 Blackout upper, because they use the same size bolt carrier. And the big difference between the piston-driven system versus the direct impingement gas is that instead of having the gas key bolted on to the bolt carrier, there's a piston rod that comes off, and that is what drives the bolt carrier back. So there's a flattened edge where that piston rod actually comes in contact with the bolt carrier instead of the gas tube going inside the gas
So basically, you could have an Adams Arms piston set and just swap out the barrel in your 300 Blackout capable at that point.
Yeah.
If you've got the appropriate gas tube.
Right. And those conversion kits come with everything that you need.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
so I mean, I would venture to say that for my intended purposes, like I said, I like to hunt, I like to shoot. In many of the states that I've lived in, there are minimum caliber requirements with which you need to take game animals. Even living overseas, they have that. So 7 millimeter is minimum required, and the 300 Blackout fires a 308 caliber bullet. So it's a 30
That's right.
caliber bullet, and that satisfies that requirement, which means that it's good for pigs. Anybody in Georgia, Texas, take note. And then also you're decent on deer. So you're going to be able to do that. And plus the whole purpose that the 300 Blackout was designed for was that you can go ahead and run it suppressed. So if you want to go ahead and pay your National Firearms Act tax stamp and go ahead and run a suppressor on it, the 300 Blackout does well with that when it's shooting the 220 grain subsonic ammunition. I was firing the 147 grain supersonic full metal jacket, purchased those from Gemtech in the sample packs.
That was my next question, was what sort of ammunition did you run in this?
Right, and like I said, it was the 147 grain full metal jacket. It was without issue. And actually, I was really surprised that because this was a grassy area, I was expecting to lose 1 or 2 rounds. Found all 10. So that means that as it's ejecting, everything is going into the same area. There's consistency. So, that's all I could ask for.
Let me ask you, it's going to sound dumb, but I mean, it may be important to somebody who's very, very concerned about weight, high speed, low drag, and all that. Was there a great difference in weight just based on the ammunition in the magazine and the different barrel?
No, absolutely not. There was a negligible difference, if any. So, when it comes to the fact that you're still able to load 30 rounds into a standard 5.56 magazine, because obviously the cases are derived from a 5.56, so you're not going to have anything that's too large trying to fit in there where it would be if you were trying to use a 6.8 or a 6.5 Grendel. This is actually from the parent case of the 5.56, and everything fits in there, full 30 rounds of the magazine. You don't lose anything. But what you gain is basically the energy, the kinetic energy at 600 yards, of which a 5.56 has at 300 yards.
That's impressive. Yeah, more meat on the plate means a larger serving. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, and like I said, if you're in one of those areas that's beset upon by the four-legged swine, you go ahead and shoot them up.
In light of the Twin Peaks massacre, I think you that was mighty nice of you to differentiate between types of swine.
Well, it's a family show, Michael. It's a family show.
Well, I'm serious. The more I think about this, if it turns out that all the dead of this thing were from cop bullets, maybe the gangs will declare war on the cops, and that won't be pretty for anybody.
Who knows? But in addition to shooting the 300 Blackout and completing that build, I went ahead and actually took the Winchester 1400 semi-automatic shotgun out in the 20 gauge variety.
Yeah, you're into something I like. How did that shotgun treat you?
So for me, this is my first semi-automatic shotgun. Everything I've owned previously has been either break action or pump action. So I was very impressed with the fact that your follow-up shot is immediate, and you don't lose a lot in terms of once you've shouldered the rifle. You don't have to reset your point of view. You don't have to reacquire a target. It's ready to go.
And you've got 4 rounds in that, 3 in the magazine, and 1 in the chamber. Is that correct?
No. This is, like I said, this is an older shotgun. So you have a 2-round magazine with the capacity of having 1 inside the breech. And then, so you're going to basically have to load 2, cycle 1 into the breech, and then load a 3rd if you want to do it that way. I'm in the middle of going over the owner's manual and the schematics, looking to see if I can go ahead and remove what there looks like there's a plug inside the magazine.
You can pull that thing right out, and I bet you get 5 in there.
Well, and that's the thing, because one of the issues that I identified, after go ahead and taking that first set of shots, was that in other semi-automatic shotguns that I have fired, been on loan and fired, there was never an issue once those rounds were ejected that you can go ahead and load more. Well, one of the things that I noticed on this one, and I'm going to be doing some more research on it, was that after that second shot fired, the feed tray for that magazine, the feed tray dropped below the magazine, and it looked like the magazine follower just pushed it a little bit forward, and that feed tray caught on the follower. So at some point, I would have to go ahead and slightly pull back on the charging handle, and then pop the magazine follower back in with my finger to be able to go ahead and push the feed tray back up to allow to start loading again.
And that is one of the reasons why they quit making the 1400.
And that is one of the chief complaints, that after doing some research, that it seems that Winchester was not able to keep up with Remington, and it was a very pretty looking shotgun, nice aesthetics. Not a whole lot went into making sure that the device was made with quality parts. So the issue that I see is, initially when I removed the magazine tube, that it looked like the magazine spring was binding on something. So we went ahead and reset that, fired it a couple more times, didn't have any issues with firing. When you pull the trigger, it goes boom. Absolutely no issues. The only one that I've identified to this point is that, number one, the shotgun itself was pretty filthy. So this weekend it will be getting a full tear down and spray out with Ballistol, and then we're going to go ahead and take a look and see if there's anything that's either damaged or broken on the inside of the magazine area, and seeing if it's the plug that's causing the problem in terms of the spring being weakened or anything else.
I'd take that plug out.
Yep. So, it's for what I needed. It's a 20 gauge, and for me, that's perfect. Being a guy with bad shoulders, so between the 300 blackout and shooting that, my shoulders held up fine. So it's, like I said, the recoil that you would expect from shooting a 308 was almost like shooting a 223.
That's cool. That's good, and that's exactly what you're looking for. I had a chance to go out and shoot a little bit over the weekend, and I got a chance to go to a gun show.
All right, let's hear it.
Well, let's see. I'll start with the gun show first. I went to the gun show on Saturday, and this one was more of a flea market than a gun show. I'd say there was 15 firearms dealers out of about 120 tables, and the rest of it was junk, ranging from some guys with used camping equipment and tools, and I'm not necessarily talking survival equipment. I mean, like, this just looked like Goodwill stuff. And a lady with a lot of Tupperware and computer doodads.
Yeah, bunch of USB cables that you couldn't figure out what they go to.
Right, cell phone covers and whatnot.
Yeah.
The firearms were quite expensive. Even the FFL holder tables, their prices didn't seem to be commensurate. Now, I've been to this show at this venue by this promoter before, and it looked to be some newer faces that I've not seen before. They were all from further up north, and I guess shows may be a little bit different in that area where they're from, but they were not coming anywhere near manufacturer suggested retail price. They were near manufacturer suggested retail price, which is usually about, I'd say about 15% over what they normally retail at. We'll just go for an example right now. The hot pistol of the moment, which is the Glock 43, that was going for $609, and that's really, they're going for $479 elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things, like you said before a couple weeks ago, what I am starting to see flood the market now is everybody who's gone out and done that impulse buy on the Glock 43s. So, that's one of the ones that there was a gun show up north of me, one county, and I heard that there was at least 5 sellers with private party folks that were offloading their newly purchased Glock 43.
That's interesting, because I mean, I've had a chance to put my hands on one, not had a chance to fire one, and it feels nice. And to me, I appreciate the smaller firearm. I mean, it's not necessarily super comfortable in the hand because you lose 2 fingers of purchase and whatnot. But I see the point behind them, and of the smaller single stack, super slim, super ultra concealable 9mm, the 43 felt fairly nice. I'd say it was second to the SIG 938, which, well, that just wins. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, you've got your preferences.
Well, I mean, yeah, it operates in the manner almost identical to a Browning high power. So I mean, that's just always going to win for me. Um, I find it odd that there were several Glock 43s on used, person to person sales. How large is this show that's near you?
It's actually one of the smaller ones, but for the area, it's pretty big because it brings in some of the northern counties. In my area, I'm in a very we'll just say it's a university town. So the
So
basically
you're
it's
racist.
well, I'm yeah, guilty as charged. I'm definitely not the higher type education folks. They don't want me to play on their soccer team, but it's one of the. I would say it's probably in size wise, it's probably about number 5 in the state because we've got some areas towards the state capital they have quite a few gun shows on from time to time, and then going towards the Navy bases on the coast, they have stuff out there. But in my area, this is the only game in town.
Well, do they do other shows around, or do they just do that one?
Just that one. I mean, there's honestly there's nothing where I'm at.
That's kind of a shame because then they kind of get lazy. The promoters will get lazy and they'll just do anything to fill a table at that point, and that's where you end up having the swap meet.
Yeah,
Somebody with a million different T-shirts, and one of them is always that wolf howling at the moon.
yeah. Or
Uh,
the you get the lady that's doing the custom made license plates.
I'll tell you what, the custom made license plate lady was at this show, and with all her error plates, she had turned them into birdhouses.
There you
So
go. Yeah,
the economy and the landscape of the gun show is changing.
yeah. You certainly don't want to have that overhead, and especially when you create it yourself.
All right, and so I don't know, that show was fairly interesting. I wasn't there for very long, maybe an hour and a half,
I was going to say,
and
in that hour and a half you were there, I mean, did you see a lot of deals being made? Did you see a lot of people making purchases, or
I did not. I did not. I did see something interesting. Well, I will. Number one, everybody who was selling ammunition had 22 long rifle, and it was selling a brick of Remington Thunderbolts were going for $30 for a brick of 500.
yeah? And it's interesting that you bring up the 22 because there's a email that's being circulated from Natchez Shooting Supports, and they are selling RWS ammunition, which comes from Germany, and they've got a couple of smoking deals on 22 long rifles. So if you guys
Well,
are
RWS is usually fairly high quality match grade stuff. It's not plinking stuff. So what's the damage on that?
well, it's one of those things that you're either going to pay a little bit or you're going to pay a lot. Um, I really didn't take a look at it other than go ahead and forward it on to you. The big thing is that this is the first time that I've been able to see any of the RWS ammo. I keep wanting to call it RVS because that's what it's called in Germany. But you're looking at 50 round box for $11, and it is the match. It is 40 grain. It really good quality stuff. Going up in grade, you have the special match, and that's 50 rounds for $12.99. And then you have the pistol match, which is 40 grain, and that's $7.99 for 50 rounds.
Yeah, that's pretty pricey.
Yeah.
That's
So
that's going to be a little bit out of my range. I'm not.
yeah,
I'm
the
still
big thing
looking at
is
the
that
10 cents a round stuff.
you're looking at the quality. So if you want quality 22, you don't get much better than RVS.
Well, I may beg to differ with you on CCI. I've never had anything CCI misfire on me. I can honestly say I've fired RWS before, and while it's expensive, it has not misfired on me. But well, if you've got the choice of CCI, which always works, and the box that's $5 more comparatively, I'll take the CCI.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's personal preference. The way I look at it is, as long as it goes boom and it's got a proven track record, you're going to be in good shape.
I like that, and I also like to have a lot of it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that going back to the 300 blackout, you gotta start taking a look and seeing if you can go ahead and start stocking up on some of that ammo too, because we've seen it offered from Fiocchi and some of the other ammunition makers, Arms Corps being one of them, Pacific Northwest, and then Guerrilla Ammunition. Those are the guys that are really trying to push their manufacture. So you might be able to find some good deals on ammo coming up, and I don't know if it's because
How do you feel about trusting some of these smaller manufacturers making ammunition for? Well, to be honest with you, it's your prized rifle. It's the rifle you've built yourself.
well, here's the way I feel about it. Having owned both the 5.56 that gets the federal ammunition, and realistically, it's the same stuff that we get in the military. I'm not really worried about it because the standards when it comes from a production line, those are going to be strictly adhered to because you go ahead and start producing bad batches of ammunition. People are going to figure it out pretty quick, and then not only that, you take a lot of liability into your hands when you start pushing out a product that can result in serious injury or death. So you want to go ahead and have your license to operate a business pulled in the United States for an ammunition manufacturer. Yeah, you go ahead and let those production guidelines and the standards slide. You'll get a visit very quickly. Speaking of visits, Michael, did you see in the news that Stag Arms out of Hartford, Connecticut, got a nice visit from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms?
A nice visit and a nice revocation and some looks like confiscation as well.
Yeah, so this is something that's actually going to affect Stag Arms supply for quite a while. It looks like they have had about 300 lower receivers confiscated by the ATF. I believe the term was voluntarily took possession of.
That's interesting. Now the circumstances behind this is they are saying that these are unserialized and unregistered. Is that correct?
Right. So what we've got the allegation of is that this is a violation of the the Federal Firearms Act and
The National
National
Firearms
Firearms.
Act,
I'm
right?
sorry, the NFA, and every individual instance is a $10,000 fine. Um, the father of the owner of the business says that this is something that is really a misunderstanding. An individual who works in the serial number department, if you can call it that, was on vacation, and these were intended to be replacement issue parts for previously purchased things, which the ATF came back with. Well, that would be a violation of the NFA because that's strictly prohibited.
Now, see, I don't understand that because if this is their manufacturer's warranty and if they had a receiver fail, they would be inclined to replace it as part of their customer service. And who's to say that somebody didn't want a custom serial number?
Well, and here's the thing. This is one of those things about the NFA that if you don't follow not only the letter of the law but the intent of whoever the administration is and the bureaucratic folks that are involved with the program, if you don't play the game by their rules, it's very easy for you to have broken the law and not even known about it. So here's the thing. This is what I see. Situation could be customer makes a purchase, a serial numbered item gets shipped out to the FFL. The individual completes the transfer at his FFL's location, goes to make his build. Something is not correct into standard. Contacts the company. Company says, "We stand behind our product. Go ahead and send it back to us. We'll go ahead and make things right." Customer does what he needs to do. Takes it, gets it sent back to the through the FFL to the company. The company at that point either destroys or disposes of, and still has the issue of needing to transfer a serial number. So at what point do you say, hey, this is a disposed of part that has a serial number on it. It's no longer a functional piece of the firearm. It's no longer a serial numbered item. This is going to be turned into scrap. Is this a case of the owner of Stag Arms being, facing some retribution for his opposition to the Connecticut legislature's actions in the wake of Sandy Hook, or is this, an overzealous ATF agent who, came
Or
across the
is
score of
he
the
a
century?
part of ISIS?
Oh, yeah, exactly. You're either with us or against us. So the way I look at it, this to me
Infiltrating our
is,
gun manufacturers.
yeah, this to me is nothing more than civil asset forfeiture. We've talked about this before. Entire police departments are funding themselves outside of the oversight of both our elected representatives and the people, and they are looking at this as if these assets that they're seizing from people are pennies from heavens. Because you know what? The way they look at it is, hey, we're passing on a tremendous cost savings to the taxpayer. We are not requesting funds from anybody. We're taking them from people who we just merely suspect of being involved in wrongdoing. And it's up to that individual to prove their property's innocence, which is completely backwards from the idea of what justice was in the United States of innocence and having the prosecutors prove your guilt. Apparently, sometime in the last 20 years, that changed, and now your property is guilty until you go through and you spend the money and you prove it innocent. And oh, by the way, you may not ever receive that property back, and if you fight them, those pockets run a lot deeper than yours do, and the chances are you're going to run out of cash before the city government does.
And you're going to have to move, because now you're going to pop up on every cop's radar when they get near you or get near your vehicle that you're a troublemaker.
Certainly.
And
That's even worse than telling the Bell County Sheriff's Office when they call your house asking for donations that you're a young soldier and I've got $5 if I could donate, and they laugh at you because you didn't have the $50 to donate so that you can get the sticker, which is the "Cop, don't bother me, I gave you mine."
I won't get one of those stickers. They can kiss my ass.
Yeah.
I ain't giving you $50 for a sticker.
Yeah, I got that call when I was about 19 years old.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I'm pretty sure they have a thick phone book full of 19-year-old enlistees' names and stuff.
Oh,
yeah,
certainly, yeah. So this is one of the things that really kills me, because it doesn't just happen with cash. If you've been stopped recently, one of the things that a lot of law enforcement agencies will ask you is, are you carrying any large sums of money? You may have actually been a victim of that, Michael. Were you not?
I have been a victim of that myself.
And what ended up happening in terms of that those illicit funds?
They were returned to me at a much reduced rate.
Yeah, for a safe holding fee, I'm sure.
Well, it was pretty much a get the hell out of here and get an attorney if you want your money back situation. There was nothing implied about it being safe or anything. I think my safety was implied if I was to get the hell out of their office.
Exactly. So
yeah.
at this point, it's not just funds. If you're carrying a firearm,
it's your safety. Well, in my situation, I had to come up with the idea, or had to come to the decision: do I lose $1,000 and call it a $1,000 lesson and move on with this, or do I spend more money on an attorney to get the $1,000? And I could probably, pursue damages, but I take my life into my hands every time I get on the highway because, well, just straight up honest, I get shot in the head.
Well, and there you go.
The newspaper would say, I was resisting.
Yep, and all of a sudden you're an 80-year-old man getting tasered by the cops. That's all you.
Or you're a biker in a parking lot getting shot, from across the parking lot by another cop with a AR-15.
There you go. Well, in addition to that news, the latest story to come out of D.C. is that a court has found that their latest requirements for submitting for a concealed carry application are unconstitutional. Specifically,
and this is the good cause.
Right, specifically correct? Relating to the good cause clause, I guess you could call it. 3 individuals who were denied concealed carry permits in the District of Columbia have sued, and a court has agreed with them that the good cause portion of the D.C. Prohibition on concealed carry is unconstitutional, because it is a totally subjective reason to determine whether or not an individual has good cause or is able to show good cause. One of the issues cited was that anybody who basically had filed a police report determining that they had been threatened would actually meet that threshold. However, anybody who had not been threatened and filed a police report would not. So, you have challenges to the Second Amendment being overturned left and right, and then in those very same locations, you have those elected leaders going right back and trying to figure out another way to get around it.
Well, we've seen the end run around our rights at every opportunity. There's another bill in Congress right now looking at the legality of online purchasing of ammunition. So keep your eyeballs on that. And in the financial department, looks like Smith & Wesson did make a $100 million loan payment. And it looks like the crash is on for Colt. Looks like Colt could be facing bankruptcy.
Yeah, that government contract, it only lasts so long.
Only lasts so long, and you can only, just because a Python sells for $3,500 doesn't mean that Colt's getting any of that money, because Colt stopped making that gun quite a few years ago.
Right. So, that's it's sad. I would say it's a sign of the times, but I also say it's a sign of corporate greed and the inability to adapt your business model to meet the changing demands.
Well, I'll just say it's just damn sad when a name like Colt is about to go bankrupt and Keltec keep on pumping out crap year after year.
Jimenez Arms, baby.
Exactly, Jimenez Arms. They probably have a higher net worth than Colt right now.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is sad. I was doing a little bit of research, looking up my favorite Filipino arms manufacturer, which would be Armscore, owning the Rock Island Armory brand name. That's one of those things is you take a look and see which conglomeration owns your favorite brand, and when you find out that it comes to Freedom Group, what are you really paying for nowadays? Are you paying for brand loyalty? Are you paying for the nostalgia that you might have felt when you held your grandfather's firearm, or are you just one of the sheep who's going along with the crowd?
I think a lot of it is you're purchasing the panache, you're purchasing the aura of the pony, and I'm sure that a $900 1911 A1 from Colt is a much nicer pistol out of the box than a $350 Rock Island. What is that? The Rock Island Amigo or something like that. But in the end, the Rock Island goes bang every time.
Exactly. And I think that as we keep having this assault on arms manufacturers and firearms manufacturers, you're going to end up having to start making some hard decisions. Do you get what meets your needs while it might not be everything that you wanted it to be, or do you spend that extra money for a company that may not be around to service it if something goes wrong with it?
Well, in a design like a 1911, which the Filipino ones in particular are spot on copies of a government issue, and whichever iteration, like an officer's model or a commander length or something like that, they are spot on copies. So you should be able to make replacement parts and spares fairly easy for that. But let's look at something. Let's say like the Canik TP9. Or the TZ9, or something that's an odd striker-fired, polymer-framed, one-off pistol that really only uses its own magazine. If you're looking at that for, they come in, let's say, $350, and thinking that might be your lifetime pistol, that may not be what you're going to get in the end.
Right.
This is, to be honest with you, it's a fairly recent Turkish importer, and Turkish stuff hasn't been known for its ultimate quality, and honestly at $350 you're not really purchasing a lifetime item. Yeah,
and you might be better served by purchasing something that's Turkish manufactured at $350 that has two barrels and is in the caliber 12 gauge.
Yeah, Yeah, or I mean, even something from a company like Stoger, which at least has some sort of, uh, industrial support around the world. It's got customer service centers. It's a name sold by big box stores. You know, that might be a better choice than one of these odd brand off name off label pistols.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, some of the things that I've kind of been keeping an eye out for. Um, I'm now looking at getting some nice iron sights for my builds. I wanted to give a quick product plug to Midwest Industries. They've got some good products. They're a company that puts their money where their mouth is, and they take care of military. So I wanted to say, thanks to them, helping me get my build completed with that 15-inch rail for what I paid for it. Any other company, I probably would have been able to only get a carbine length rail. So thanks a lot, guys. Good product. Helps keep the rifle exactly where I want it.
Well, I'm glad you got a happy report and a positive customer review of this. Hey, we're kind of getting short on time, so let's hit the 4 rules of gun safety real quick.
Please do. Please do.
Rule number 1: every firearm is loaded until you visually and physically ensure that it is not loaded. Rule number 2: keep the barrel or the muzzle pointed in a safe direction at all times. Rule number 3: know what your target is and know what is beyond your target at all times. And rule number 4, the most important rule of all: keep your booger hook off the bang switch. Do not place your finger upon the trigger until you are ready to discharge the weapon.
There you go. Sage advice.
Well, I got to keep it simple, right?
Yeah. That's it. Keep it simple, stupid.
Well, keep it simple, sailor, or something like that. That'll work.
Yeah.
And I'd like to give a shout out to the tonight. I am live on assignment, and I'm coming to you from the Seadrift Yacht Club parking lot.
And
currently
24-hour shrimp shack.
there is no shrimp shack, but we there are lights. There are lights, and my assignment was to find an LTE signal that works because my entire city is down. There is no internet in my town tonight. So,
Oh, there you go.
this was
we would
done
call that a express live assignment.
Yeah. So this was done completely by cell phone. So sorry if it sounds horrible, but yeah, LTE and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, Michael, I wanted to go ahead and say thanks to our listeners, our loyal, faithful folks we've got out there. Appreciate keeping up with you guys in chat, trying to get at your questions. Give a big shout to my buddy Chris, keeping it real out where he's at, and I want to say thanks to Jules. Thanks for giving us this platform. Michael, good to hear you again.
Nick, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. Everybody keep your eyeballs out on the Twin Peaks Massacre. It looks like that's going to end up being called. Everybody, UCY.TV. It's an innovative platform. Everybody gets a chance to say what they want. If you'd like to bring up a show, make a tape and send it to Jules. She'll give it a listen and probably give you a chance. A little bit of everything for everybody. Lots of good radio around tonight. Still stick around. Anti-Media Radio is live tonight, coming up at 11. Awesome stuff. Those guys are young and on fire and full of energy. They probably have some interesting views on that stuff. I believe Purple Chicks Rewind after dark is next. And Nick, it's been a hell of a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, it's another week gone by, and any week that you get to put some rounds down range is a good week. And we got the Memorial Day weekend coming up. Maybe you might get to do some more.
Yeah, Wounded Warriors came through my town, and tell you what, got to stop these wars.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's get some of these immigrant aliens in service doing it, so that we can have the Americans not. Yeah. All right.
Tired seeing 9 buses full of wounded guys. So let's stop the wars, everybody. Take care. Be safe. Stick around. More programming up next.